Some families are known for their fortune, some are known for their fame. But the Guinness family, brewers of that iconic stout, well, they're known for something much, much darker. Their history is so full of tragedy, kidnappings, and just bizarre accidents that the media came up with a name for it: the Guinness family curse. So let's dive into this story. And we're not starting in the distant past. No, this story begins in 1998 with a tragedy so strange it honestly sounds like something out of a horror film. Picture this. It's October 30th. You're on a beautiful, serene country road in England. Rose Nent, who happens to be an heiress to the Guinness fortune, is getting ready for a special celebration for her mom's birthday. The whole scene is just completely peaceful. Now, Rose was an expert with horses, and she had this really charming idea for a surprise. She decided to pick up the party guests in a horse-drawn caravan. Yeah, it's a scene you'd expect from, I don't know, the 1800s, not the late 1990s. But that's kind of the Guinness way, this old-world charm. And then, in a split second, that peace is just shattered. Something spooks the horse. It bolts, galloping at full speed down this steep hill. The charming picture instantly becomes pure, terrifying chaos. Rose is fighting for control, but the horse is frantic. As they fly around a bend in the road, she's thrown from her seat, right onto the pavement. And then, the very caravan she was driving ran her over. It crushed her, killing her instantly. A freak accident on her mother's birthday. The media coverage was, as you can imagine, immediate and completely sensational. Headlines just like this one were screaming from the tabloids, really cementing this idea that this wasn't just a string of bad luck. No, this was part of a pattern. This was the family curse at work. And if you think that's a one-off, well, just look back a decade earlier. You'll find a story that only adds more fuel to that fire. It involves a terrifying kidnapping and just the cruelest twist of fate. On April 8th, 1986, another member of the family, John Henry Guinness, came home to an absolute nightmare. He found his wife, Jennifer, and his daughter tied up, being held captive by armed, masked men who had broken into their home. The men pistol-whipped Jennifer, tied John up, and then kidnapped his wife. What did they want? A staggering £2 million for her safe return. For 8 agonizing days, Jennifer was held captive. She was pleading with them, telling them her husband wasn't in the direct line of inheritance and just couldn't pay. She was finally rescued after a neighbor spotted her being taken into a house, which led to this tense, all-night hostage standoff. Now, you might be thinking, okay, well, she survived, so much for the curse, right? But fate, it seems, had a much crueler plan. Just 2 years after surviving that whole ordeal, John was walking with that same family in northern Wales when he lost his footing and fell 3,000 feet from Mount Snowdon to his death. But the story of the Guinness family isn't just a list of victims. It's also a story of incredible resilience, and that's embodied by one of its most famous modern members. The fashion icon Daphne Guinness also had her brush with this family darkness. I mean, can you imagine? When she was just 5 years old, a disturbed family friend broke into her home and held a knife to her throat, threatening to kill all the women in the house before he was finally stopped. But instead of letting that trauma define her, Daphne chose a totally different path. This is her philosophy. She channeled those experiences not into fear, but into this world-renowned career in fashion and philanthropy. She really represents a break in that tragic cycle. And Daphne's resilience, it points to a really crucial part of this story that often gets overlooked. Because while all the tragedies are sensational, the Guinness family legacy has another, far more positive side to it. For centuries, the Guinness family has been one of Ireland's greatest benefactors. I mean, they've used their immense wealth to fund everything from reconstructing national landmarks like St. Patrick's Cathedral to medical research, hospitals, and universities. And that legacy of doing good, it continues today. Back in 2014, the Guinness Company took a major stand for equal rights. They pulled their sponsorship of the New York City St. Patrick's Day Parade because of its ban on LGBTQIA+ groups. Guess what happened? The very next year, the ban was lifted and Guinness reinstated its support. That's a modern use of power for good. So, how do we reconcile these two completely different stories? You have the horrific curse on one side and this incredible history of profound charity on the other. You really can't ignore the sheer volume of tragedy here. The source material for this explainer actually notes that after a dozen family deaths, you simply stop counting. And that doesn't even include their inner circle. I mean, with numbers that high, the idea of a curse starts to become almost compelling. Which really just leaves us with a final question. Is the Guinness family truly plagued by some kind of supernatural curse? Or are all these tragedies the inevitable, chaotic fallout from centuries of immense wealth, power, and influence? Maybe the real curse is simply the price of having it all.